The diagnostics, we should deal with the diagnostics then. For example, pre-privatization structuring. You know, before issuing any IPO for the public assets, maybe bringing in private sector management or cleaning up the balance sheets and giving it a clear commercial mandate so that it can fetch even good money in the market. But accepting the status quo, it can be disastrous because it means then we don't want to improve. We just want the politics, you know, to remain the same, the status quo, the asset not to have any, to gain anything. So I think those are some of the things that we need to confront, the hard truth that, the reforms that we need to make. And also on Oxfam and other NGOs. When I was growing in Paraguay 20 years ago, I knew Oxfam. And even in Turkana. Some years ago, there are 100 to 200 NGOs in Turkana. And the statistics that were displayed here are still the same. But you can find 150 NGOs in Turkana. Then does it mean 20 years ago is today that you have seen there are these problems? That means we have to change on what we are doing. We have to see on whether we are making impact or what is our approach then. Because Turkana is earning from the equitable share of revenue 8 to 10 billion Kenya shillings from the national government. So then how then can we work together and see that we are making this impact, be accountable? So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for those few remarks. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.
All right, thank you, PS. You posed an important challenge to Oxfam. I don't know if the government of Kenya has been monitoring the inequality in the country. And I don't know if we have the data showing what it is, because how old is the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics? Anyone? How old is it? As well as independence, I'm told. So I think it's a point of us to reflect on, are we measuring the right things, so that even as we talk about the economic growth, slightly more. It's good to measure that, but how about these other factors of our society and the inequality, very importantly. Now, PS, you shouldn't have sat, because now we need to unveil the report. Please come, and you'll be joined by Executive Director, Oxfam in Kenya, Mongera, the Executive Director, Amitabh, in charge of Oxfam International. You'll be joined by Rogers from Oxfam, Anthony and Beverly, the authors of the report. Please come forward. And then also we have Caroli Omondi representing the National Assembly, that is from the Committee on Constitution Implementation Oversight, as well as Senator Sifuna representing the Senate. Please help us here as we launch this report, and the band, you can give us what we need. If everyone is ready for
my people,
All right, if we are ready, I've seen that also Diana Gishengo, the Executive Director from the Institute of Social Accountability, has joined in. So PS, please lead us in unveiling this report. I'll count you down from 5 to 1. At 0, please go ahead and do the thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A luta continua, a luta continua, continua. Em Kenya, a luta continua, a luta continua, continua. In Africa, a luta continua, a luta continua, continua. Continua, continua. A luta continua, a luta continua, continua.
All right, thank you so much. Please resume your seats as we clap for them. Well, there are some parts of this meeting that are not with us. At the far right, please, let's clap for our representatives in launching the report, so that we do not complain about inequality in in following the proceedings here. Now, allow me to invite two people to give us quick reactions and responses to what we've just heard this morning, and I'll allow you 5 minutes. I'll start with Mheshimiwa Karoli Omondi, followed by Mheshimiwa Dindi Nyoro, to give us your perspectives on what you've heard this morning and what you think should be the solutions, especially going forward to look at your legislative work. Mheshimiwa Karoli.
Thank you very much, Sam. Good morning, everybody. We normally start with protocols, but please allow me to skip them so that we can save on time. Let me begin by thanking Oxfam for this illuminating report. My key takeaways, if I could start from there, are that Kenya is ranked 16th in the world on the inequality index. Our poverty rate has risen in 2015 from 36% to 40% in 2025. 20 million Kenyans live below the poverty line, that is on less than $1 a day or 130 shillings. 125 Kenyans have more wealth than 43 million Kenyans, and 1% of Kenyans control 78% of our financial assets. Those are the key takeaways I got here. Now, what that immediately informs is that we have not realized Article 10 of our Constitution. Because if you look at our Constitution, inequality is addressed under Article 10. There are some national values and principles that are supposed to be implemented for purposes of dealing with inequality. One of them is equity. Then even the word equality is also used there. There is social justice as a national value, public participation of the people. You have protection of the marginalized. You have sustainability. And then there's integrity, which deals with issues of corruption. So basically what this data is showing is that we have a lot of work to do. From my observation, I think a lot of the inequality is now technology driven in this country. I'll just give you some example and how we are proposing to deal with it. The idea of cashless payments is institutionalized, and it is very appealing, and we take it as something that helps with financial inclusion. But if you think about it critically, there are elements of discrimination in it. How does a blind person or a person with inability to read or use their eyes deal with cashless payment? Let's even go further. The woman who sells tomatoes or onions every day puts them in a pack of 4 or 5 and says 20 shillings. When you ask her to receive the payment, other than by way of cash, either you use let me use M-Pesa because that is the most common. What happens to that lady? The par value that she gets is not the 20 shillings for those tomatoes, because they are indirect charges, they are also direct charges on that lady. If you make cashless payment the norm and mandatory all over, what about the unbanked, those who cannot access credit cards or debit cards or who don't have bank accounts? So I think we need to interrogate what is happening to the low-income members of society when we talk about technology. As a matter of fact, I've brought an amendment to the Central Bank Act that will make cash payment mandatory option at any point of sale across the board to deal with this issue. So soon you will see the bill published because it has passed through all the stages. Let's we were talking about the debt burden for the country. 1% of the population controls 78% of the financial assets. These are the people milking you through interest rates. If you look at our national debt, it's 67% of the GDP. 60% is domestic debt, meaning debts in Kenya shillings, which this 1% has lent to the government and which they are paid without doing any work. And to make matters worse, those who are paying it are excluded now from getting affordable banks for their private businesses, or loans from banks. So it is now time to democratize government securities. How do we do that? M-Pesa has taught us we move about, 47 trillion? We can lend the Kenya government through electronic means as a group of all Kenyans in small denominations so that we can exclude the banks from buying government securities. And if we do that, we will bring down the interest rates in this country. And this 1% have refused. You remember Kabando brought this amendment? I am now going to reintroduce it again in Parliament so that we keep this fight. Whether we win today or we win tomorrow, we must democratize the way we deal with government securities in this country so that people, if you buy haba, ujaza kibaba, I put 10,000 shillings, 50,000, we will still get to the government the amount of money they want. The World Bank does not like it. I had this discussion with them. I belong to a caucus that interfaces with the World Bank in the National Assembly. But I think that is the argument. Let us have our own argument. Yes, and we go forward and we democratize. Yes, and the very little that was offered during President Uhuru's time was taken very quickly by the public. So let us lend to ourselves and keep off the banks and the 1% that are controlling 78%. Let now the 23 million control the 78% of the assets. On education, we have very big disparity between urban schools and rural schools. And then within the urban areas, Senator Sifuna will tell you, the schools in informal settlement do not get the same facilities, the same quality of teachers, and the same opportunities for those children as in the others. And it is going to get worse with CBE. Why? Because CBE, and we did make this point in Parliament, in my view, is more or less like the educational system that is, I find it in very expensive schools. Yeah, it is called, what do they call it? I'll remember the name, I'll tell you. That system requires mothers to do homework with their children every day. A woman in Kibra is so busy between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. doing what? Selling her wares by the roadside to feed the family. That is the time this mother is supposed to be doing homework And if the education system is based on technology so much, what about the areas without internet connectivity? How are we going to address, or those without electricity? That is why I'm saying we need to interrogate technology-driven inequality and how this is affecting us, yes? The other one, the education system is called IB, yeah? The IB system, CBE follows IB. And IB around the world is exclusive to expensive schools. So why we want to give it to our children, I don't know. But we need to deal with that. Now, on the national values, which we believe are the foundations of a great nation, plus strong institutions, I've also introduced a bill in Parliament, which I think has been sent to the government printer, to institutionalize what I call nationhood science, so that we teach these values from kindergarten all the way to university, the values under Article 10. I think this is the only way we can recapture the soul and heart of Kenya and save our country and deal with all these issues. On politics, there's also politically driven inequality. Today, without fear of contradiction, the poor people tend to get poor leaders. If you profile MPs, MCAs, and you see where they are coming from, just let's be frank with each other. It may be controversial, but I normally speak my mind because I've thought about it deeply. When elections are held, the very educated people don't find themselves contesting for seats in the poor neighborhoods. It is those with limited opportunities who contest for those seats. So when you elect an MCA who comes to City Hall and he has no knowledge to interrogate budgets, he has no knowledge to interrogate accounts, what are you telling? How is he going to represent his people on accountability issues? It is happening now, and politics has been made so expensive that if you don't have money, you can't get into it. And our political parties have not helped us either. My Secretary General is here, of my party. ODM is claiming 11 billion shillings from political party funding. How on earth in a poor country can a political party, which is a private members club, claim 11 billion shillings when university students have no capitation? Let's be frank. Let's be frank. We have to change the Political Parties Act, and we have to come with a political financing law in this country. It is criminal. Let's just be frank. Independent candidates are not financed. If you run through a political party, yeah, and you lose to an independent candidate, in your party you got 40,000 votes, but the person who ran as an independent who defeated you got 45,000 votes, his 40,000 votes are used in calculating political party funding. Your 45,000 votes as an independent candidate are not factored into the funding. So, SG, don't expel me from the party. Let's be honest. Food. 71, this report shows us 71% of the people in Kenya are suffering from hunger. It is true because of low incomes. When the children don't get good diet in their early years, you've completely denied them the opportunity to get proper education for their brain and all those other cognitive senses to develop properly. So we need to deal with these issues very strongly. On the issue of debt, my proposal is it is now time not to lament about debt, but for Kenyans to, we've been struggling in Parliament to do an audit of our debt, and it's not come through. And I'm glad my good friend Dindi Nyoro is here. But what about debts that are tainted with corruption, which are the majority of debts in Africa? SGR is an example in this country. How much money really went to build SGR? Let us be honest with each other. Bribes were paid from China to the quarries of Nairobi, to the guys who sold land. So China must be frank with us. If the cost of, and you just take a very simple comparison. Morocco built a similar railway network from Tangiers all the way to Marrakesh. And it is electric, and it is built by GTV of France in terms of technology. It cost less than what we did for Mombasa, Nairobi. Ethiopia just did theirs. So why are people being burdened by foreign debt that is tainted with corruption? We have to ask this question, and we have to face these creditors, and this is where Oxfam and the rest of the civil society can help us and tell most of these countries that we will not pay. Because illegality, the debt, a contract tainted with corruption under international law is unenforceable. So we just need to help us prove, like Sentry did, Clooney did with Southern Sudan. They proved where money was being stolen. So, because you will not get out of this debt trap unless you become radical. And on health, we are having very serious problems. Kenya, you can be detained after being discharged as a human being, that you will not be let out of the hospital until you pay the bill. Even dead bodies are being detained, yet there's no property in a human person that you can detain as security. So again, I've brought an amendment to the Medical Practitioners Act so that bodies and individuals cannot be detained in hospitals for medical bills. We have put that so that we can help this. On social protection, the greatest danger that I've seen from my own experience is that every social protection program comes with a lot of mismanagement and corruption. Some not intended, some intended. So the design of these social protection programs, I think we really need to be careful with them, because they are good intentions, but the results sometimes are not what we anticipated. Climate change impacts tend to affect the poor more than the rich. And even the incentives, like last week we had a debate on green fiscal incentives that we are introducing, the government is introducing as a policy that will mainstream climate adaptation in our financial sector. A very good idea. But when you looked at it, you realized most of the incentives were not pro-poor. They're actually pro-rich. So we need to deal with those. The one that really kills all of us, and we are all guilty of it, are cultural norms and practices that put our women down. And the example I like to give is, in a typical African setup, women don't own the land in rural area. And you will realize in rural area, the people who feed the families are the women. In any rural setup, the families depend on the work of the women. 90% of the food, everything, the women. But the women don't own the land, but they are the ones who till it. Whether you are growing a cash crop like tea, or you are doing maize, or you are doing beans, or whatever, it is the women who work on the farms. They don't own the granaries. Once it is the harvests are made and put in the granary, the husband controls ingress and egress into the granary. It's a terrible arrangement. And all these cultural norms, whatever you are being told, oh, this is our culture, it's all nonsense. They are all designed to keep the woman down. That is what they are. Yes, there is no cultural practice in them. Yes, these are things that were designed at a particular social formation time to keep the woman down. Why? Because without the women, society could not progress, and you have to domesticate them, literally, and hold them down. So we need to take away all these things. Yes, women should be allowed to own property, do whatever they want, get married wherever they want to be, and just be Kenyans. And then the final one is, as a country, yes, as a country, if we want to move forward, we should stop talking about better. This is now for the government. We should stop talking about better. Better is a partisan development plan by UDA because they want government. You see, nations are put on development pathways by national development programs. We had Vision 2030. We should have a successor to Vision 2030 where everybody is involved. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Obara, please come and talk to us as well, your reflections of the inequality report.
Thank you very much. My name is Eve Obara, Member of Parliament for Kabondo Kasipul constituency. Kabondo Kasipul is in Homa Bay County. I'm a second-term Member of Parliament. I came in 2017 and 2022 elected. Homa Bay County has 3 women in single constituency. In the whole country, we have 28 out of 290. So there are 28 women in single constituency, apart from, of course, the affirmative action seats, which are 47. As my colleague has said, I also came in late, so I was not able to listen to the report, to the release of the report. But I've had the privilege of having served in Education Committee and also in Public Accounts Committee. And I've made my observation based on also what our colleagues and the other panelists have said. One area that I want to talk about is that as Kenyans, we need to go back to the basics. Simple basics on the challenges that we have as a country. One, on education, capitation. You heard Dr. Abdi, who was my colleague previously. I was a CEO at the Kenya Literature Bureau. Kenya Literature Bureau is under the Ministry of Education, and it's a commercial state corporation. And I know what it means to be able to raise money and spend it and not be able to have pending bills. So, education. Dr. Abdi has told us here very clearly that they give 15,000 per student at JSS. He's also told us that 1,428 is for the primary schools. And we also know that 5,000 is for the senior school. Is that not correct? Capitation. Dr. Abdi. 22,000. For infrastructure support, it's 5,000. So tell me, JSS is domiciled in primary schools. If you go to those schools, even in your village, tell me what is there for JSS for you to make the difference, to see the difference. Very little. I am talking from matters of the ground, not of paper. On the ground, there is very little. So what do we need to do in terms of policy? Why give one in the same area 15,000 and another one 1,428, moving to 2,238, and yet we are not holding those people accountable who are being given the money? So don't we need to start there? What were we supposed to do with the 15,000? When we asked that question in the Education Committee, we were given an array of activities and things that were supposed to be done. You go to the schools and ask the same question, you probably won't see that. So the people on the ground must be held accountable for not oversighting, because we also have quality assurance officers and sub-county education officers and all those people. People need to start working and do what they were supposed to do. Money we have, based on what we were being told here. We have money that is collected from taxes, but what are we doing about it? Two is the issue of national and the county government. Why do we have so much, what you call pending bills? Why? And again, I go back again to holding people accountable. People must start doing the work that they are being paid for. So what do I mean? Budgets are drawn. Activities are aligned to those budgets. Allocation is made and money is released. What is the outcome? In some areas, yes, you will see the projects, you will see what was supposed to be done. In other areas, there's nothing. If you have been given money, billions of shillings, and you have done nothing on activities that you yourself came up with, what do we do to you? What do we do to you? It's about time we started taking action on such people so that Kenyans learn that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then there are sanctions and send them to jail. So, those are my comments. As a country, we need to go back to the basics, and we need to start holding those leaders, those people, including ourselves, if we don't do what we are supposed to do, including ourselves, hold them to account. And once we do that, I am sure nobody will want to be in jail or be sanctioned, because you can imagine what is going to happen to you and your family, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you.